Thank you so much.
Here we are on FaithWorks Live, and this is kind of a live update edition. As I said, we were discussing this big story that had happened in the state of Iowa, and everyone in the sound of my voice has probably heard about the Satanist altar at the Iowa State Capitol. And that's a sentence I never thought I'd say, but we've been talking about it, and you're going to hear through the course of our episode today some of the strong voices, the Christian voices that have banded together and that stood strong for the beauty of Christ during this Christmas season at our Iowa State Capitol. The prayer rally, wonderfully attended, just a time of joy all around. But there is some breaking news. Another chapter in this saga has come upon us. And when I saw this part of the story, I had several thoughts. But first and foremost, I wanted to get the wisdom of people who have considered this well. And Tamara Scott was first in my mind. She's a lady that's kind of like the original culture warrior, if I could say that before that was cool. She's the host of the Tamara Scott Show, eponymously named, which you should check out as well. She has great experience as National GOP committee woman as well. She's been in the fight for life, marriage, education, all those good things. And Tamara, I know you done specifically some research and dedicated some airtime to the imagery behind this particular satanic altar as well. So I'd love to get a little bit of the background as you understand it, and then what your thoughts are on this latest I'll say this latest plot twist is that the altar was destroyed. So we'll get there, but first your thoughts on the background and on the thing itself.
All right. Well, first off, Rebecca, thank you for inviting me on, and thank you for being flexible, moving around my schedule. You can tell I'm still like situating myself as we get down here. There's so many moving parts to life as it is, but
Of course.
thank you for everything you do in this culture battle. And for me, I thought you were going to say somebody who's been here a long time, who is, aged. So thank you for not saying that, but it's encouraging for me to see people like you coming along. So thank you for that. Baphomet. I had done a show or two on this, gosh, maybe a year or two ago, earlier this year, maybe. Jay Sladen did a great video, and I'm just going to say it out there for everyone else. It's called Luciferian Education. If you've not watched it, it's only 15 minutes long. You need to go just take a view of it, not around your children, but you need to watch it because it goes through the education system and the United Nations, and it all comes back to power, spirits, a fight against good and evil. And so that's the best way to say it. Baphomet itself, I had not heard a lot of people talk about, which is how I found Jay. He was the only one I could find who had really covered it. Baphomet is a statue, and I believe there is a permanent one at one of the state capitals. I've heard a couple different states, so I won't say for sure. And there's also a couple photos. You might have seen those on the show that I did, if you saw that link, that there are a couple photos at the same time as I had Jay come on the show. Pop stars. We're just talking about someone, and one of them did the symbol. I don't want to do it because I don't want anyone to ever freeze the frame and make it look like I'm doing it. But it's an odd pose where two fingers are up on one hand, two fingers are down the other hand. And I think it's as it is above, be below, or as it is below, it be above. It's a spiritual reference. There's no doubt about it. And so for someone to do that on a pop culture show, you don't strike that pose. When every so often we hear the okay symbol, and I guess I'm on Zoom here. I'm not sure if you can see it for those on video, but the okay symbol, all of a sudden you're not supposed to do that. Or the longhorn symbol, we now hear that there's a underground term on that is linked back to history that's not positive. I hate to see kids doing that when they don't know what it is. So all those things are questionable, but that particular form from Baphomet is not something you're ever going to do by accident unless you've seen it before. So that was strange. So Baphomet in itself it's a demonic statue. Now, oddly enough, here's the beauty of it, Rebecca. Whoever put the statue up, whoever wants to defend the statue, are they just as fractured and splintered as any other political group or religious sect or anybody else? They can't agree amongst themselves. One of them said, no, this is not religious on Facebook, social media. This is not religious. It's just something about being with nature, I don't know, whatever. And another one said, oh, yes, this has to be included because it's a religious freedom issue.
Yeah.
It's a free speech issue. So they can't get their act together any better than the rest of us. They're arguing and they don't know. And depending on which tract they take, I think that we have grounds constitutionally that there's no reason that that statue needs to be there.
Hmm. And I'd love to get into those details a little bit more because I'm seeing a couple of different arguments crop up within Christian circles
Yeah.
too about how to respond to this. And of course, I'll just say as the background, when I first saw about this, it was about a week and a half ago, I think, that they put it up. And everyone was in an uproar when you see the picture. And that is the intention of
Right.
the Satanists, that this is their tactic. They're kind of the epic trolls of this age. They'll buy a billboard, they'll put up some sort of display, and it's intentionally provocative. They start Satan clubs in schools, and many of them, if there are a few people that are actually worshiping in occults and darkness and things like that, many people don't understand the implications of this. So there's a whole different spiritual level of warfare that I know we can go into. Maybe that's probably a whole nother episode in
We only
itself.
have 10 minutes.
But I've heard two arguments crop up. One is that this is heinous, but it has to be allowed because if we don't, then we're giving government power to define what is religion, and we don't want to do that from a Christian perspective either. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that understanding.
So first, when you said something about what the Satanists do, let me just say, and I put this on social media to folks, the Satanists in this particular situation are doing exactly what Satan does. They are coming to kill, steal, and destroy our joy this Christmas season. And I just warn people, it's not that I'm not upset about this. I absolutely deplore it, and I don't think it's constitutionally protected. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a constitutional scholar, but I do try to be a student. And so I'll bring those answers to your reasons why in a minute, but I am put out by this, but that's exactly what they want, as you say. And we saw several things on Facebook, go in and take it down, go in and take its head off. And yes, somebody actually did do that, and I wish they would not have. But and don't take that 10-second frame either. You know, I certainly want it destroyed, but there's a measure, right? The Bible says to be wise as a serpent, but innocent as a dove. We
Hmm.
need to count, many counselors count the cost. So we need to be measured in how we handle things. So please, no one out there take my calm measure as I don't care. I'm strategizing, right? We're
Right.
working on this and how we best do it so that it doesn't give them what they want. So they're coming to steal, kill, and destroy. And I just said, don't let them take your bait and stand your ground, right? Refuse their bait. Don't go along with this. But at the same time, don't overreact and give them the attention in which they're so desperately after. And so one of the attorneys I talked to said, well, what we found in other capitals, if we just ignore them, they go away after a while. I get that. That's probably true. I'm not interested in that trek either. It sets a precedent, and I'm not interested in that. So do you want me to launch into the various reasons why I think that there's grounds it not be there?
Sure, I'd love to hear it because I think the more of a laissez-faire approach, which says, well, we can't have any restrictions and anything, in order to have freedom of
Right,
religion, that means anything that
right,
claims to be a
right.
religion has to have the same level of legitimacy. And I don't think that's true, especially not in a state where we should have representation. Our state house should represent our values.
And even more, our founding fathers. And that's
True.
where I hang my hat, right? On the original intent. So today just so happens, Rebecca Haney, to be the anniversary of the Bill of Rights ratification,
Oh,
December
what a
5th.
day.
December 15th, 1791, the Bill of Rights was ratified. Those first 10 amendments, of which does not give us our rights, it secures the rights that are endowed by our Creator, not
Yes.
to be taken by man.
Hmm.
That first one is freedom of religion, is freedom of the press, is freedom of speech, which are plenty under attack these days. So if on just this first one, let's take it at that little juncture. All right, so the religious aspect, they can't determine whether or not they're coming at this. They're going to pick whichever one they think suits them best to win a
Yeah.
court case, to plead their case. Okay, so let's just go under the freedom of religion. Our founding fathers, it's very clear in their writings that many of them had a faith, and it was a Christian faith, right? The God that's mentioned in our declaration is not any other God, but the one true God. that we worship. It's the God that's on our currency. It's the God in our halls of Congress. It's the God mentioned in the Mayflower Compact, if you want to talk about our religious heritage. But our God the Father, our founding fathers wisely gave us free will. They said you can worship any way you wish, whomever you want, or not at all. What that does, that First Amendment does not equalize all religions. It just said we won't establish a state religion. But they did establish the Declaration of Independence, naming this God 4 times. Our creator, the rights that we so enjoy, that they're trying to hold on to, are endowed by who? A creator, not Satan, a creator.
Mm-hmm.
And so either they're going to admit to that or they don't have any of those rights.
Mm.
So as well, to me, that God is the one that has a right to be in our public buildings, in our government buildings. The prayers offered before a committee, a council meeting, the chambers of the House or the Senate, it makes sense that they would be to that God. If you want to do it Lutheran, Catholic, Presbyterian, evangelical, whatever you like, the founding fathers, when we talk about the first intent, that was their intent.
Mm-hmm.
However you wish. But this is the God in which they trusted upon, relied upon, prayed to, and saw results for direction, protection, and provision. And this is why America is the great country she is the blessings we have enjoyed. And I know there's a slogan, make America great again. America is great. God doesn't bless her because she's great. She's great because God has blessed her.
Mm.
That's what sets us apart. So that's my religious argument. If that's is that clear enough? Is there more I should hit on that?
Right. No, I think I understand
I
that.
think
And
that
there's an important distinction there. I think we've gone so far away from the original intention of the founders and an understanding of who they were and what freedom of religion even mean. Like none of those words mean what most people think they mean anymore.
right.
And so it is, I think Christians have fallen susceptible to just saying, well, we can't defend any of those traditional understandings of anything. It has to be all or nothing. And most of us don't trust the government anyway, with good reason. And so our concern is, well, it just has to be allowed as an open door. And in that, I think the Satanists are scoffing and they win in that kind of there's a lack of critical thinking and a lack of judgment there as well.
There's also a little cowardice, even some Christians on our side, elected officials and pastors are saying that very same thing. Well, we wouldn't want the government telling us what's approved and what's not. Now, I did say the same thing when someone called out the governor. I think this is a little unfair to nail her for something that takes a process. Paperwork has to be filed. For the last 5 to 8 years, I've been a part of helping with the nativity that's been set up every year at the Capitol without a lot of notice. We've invited people to come. We've tried to make a ceremony. We couldn't get people to attend. It's a busy time of year. There's not a lot going on, but we filled out the paperwork. Martin Cannon from Thomas More Society has helped with that, made sure we had the paperwork. So I'm saying there's always a time you have to do it. There's paperwork, there's a process. The governor, you don't want her putting her thumb on the scale. You want the process, whatever it is, the legislature can determine if it needs tweaked, changed, or revised. And I think that may happen before next year, rightfully so. But you don't want a governor coming in and say, I like that one and I don't like that one. That's a dangerous way to head. So I don't agree with that. And let me come back and say the ceremony this year was packed. Absolutely packed. Of course, the one year I couldn't be there, but I had already arranged with the director of the Iowa Prayer Caucus to do it the day his group was there praying every week. And so I knew it was in good hands, and I transferred baby Jesus before I left town. So we had more people there than we've had in the past. And I think it's Genesis 50:20, God can use for good what others meant for harm. Thank you very much, friends, who put up the nasty little statue. All right. So do we want to go to the freedom of speech issue?
Yes. Let's talk about what we can do about that, or what you think an effective argument would be.
Right. Because they're going to pick, and I don't want to help clue them in and coach them on this, but this may be an angle that they take, right? All right. So freedom of speech, really? Can you yell obscenities anywhere you want?
No,
I mean, we now have
not according to court cases.
Right. Well, and even more, I mean, the hate crime legislation, I don't agree with that. I don't like censoring somebody's speech. Um, I don't like seeing people get canceled because someone doesn't like what they said. You have every right to be
Mhm.
offended. You don't have a right to control what they say because of your inability to not be offended,
Right.
right? So I don't even like that trek. But freedom of speech, there's still regulations on speech. You can't yell fire in a theater, right? You can't, someone else was saying you can't incite, you can't knowingly incite. There's a whole law case on that. I don't have it in front of me and I'm not an attorney.
Mhm.
So I think I'm annoying enough without being an attorney. So, but I am married to one, and I did raise another one, and I have debated a Supreme Court justice after helping remove him from the bench, and
Nice.
a law school dean. How- Now grandma, who just wanted to raise my kids, but the government wouldn't stay out of my way. So
Mhm.
I got involved. But that's it. So back to the free speech thing. Um, yes, we have free speech, but again, this is a government building.
Mhm.
The God that I mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, Mayflower Compact, our currency, that God is on our currency. That God is mentioned, I think it was the House or the Senate, where the In God We Trust is behind the speaker's chair. I think it's the House. So if you look at that, there is your governmental mantle, not even from a faith perspective, but it's your foundational governmental mantle. As legislators and elected officials, they take an oath to uphold the Constitution, which includes the Bill of Rights and stands on the Declaration. And in that oath, it says something about protecting from enemies, both domestic and foreign.
Mhm.
If you understand the Bible at all, Satan is an archenemy of God, right? Influenced one third of the angels to abandon and betray that God. So here's the God we've trusted. We've read the stories about George Washington being protected, about the bullet holes in his coats, him being protected, the provision for our country. On this God, it is on the framework of this God, praying and receiving the blessings of direction and provision and protection. So, why would you allow one who is an enemy of that God in the same building when we're all to protect from enemies, foreign or domestic? I think Satan falls into that category.
I think that's a
It's not a free
fascinating
speech.
It's not a free speech. I think that's a fascinating argument, a fascinating logical, at the very least, it would be an obstacle for anyone that's seeking to put worship of Satan on the same playing field as worship in the
Right.
Judeo-Christian God. And I think we need to wrestle with that. We need to be ready to defend what is good and true and beautiful and noble and lovely according to biblical principles. And I don't think we should just roll over and say, oh, well, they got us there. Those sneaky Satanists, they have the right to do it because they're using the very First Amendment that guarantees the right to worship the one true God against people of faith because I don't think we're arguments. Oops. I honestly don't think that we're making the right arguments. We should be more
Right.
skilled in our arguments, like you said. Sorry, I cut out a little bit there. But I know we've got very limited time right now, and I really appreciate your insights on this. There are people that are calling Michael Cassidy, who is the man who smashed Satan, smashed down the idol. And honestly, from a poetic justice standpoint, I love
Right.
the image of tearing down the idol in the state house. Now, this was outside of the process, and I hear the argument. I'm torn. Honestly, I'm torn as to how to
Right.
react to this. And what you just said was, maybe there should have been a more measured approach. So I'd love to just kind of cap our conversation and give you the last
Right.
word on that and what
Right.
you think about this. I think there's a time for both responses. So I'd love to hear your final thoughts on that.
You see if I can intertwine it all in
You're a master.
because of legislators. Thank you. Because of legislators and pastors who are taking that cowardice path, and I
Hmm.
don't mean to inflame, but it may. I mean, the Bible's pretty clear there's no lukewarm. He's also pretty clear what's right and what's wrong. If you don't stand with me, you're against me.
Hmm.
And it's high time people start standing up for what we know to be true, start holding our ground. Was it Shamal who held the ground in the bean field, the lentil field? We're
Mm.
crying out loud. It's time we start holding our ground, staking our turf, and quit politely scooting over for the bad guy next door that we know wants to harm us and our children. Stop it. So for those pastors and legislators who wrote those passive, passive ideas, you're part of the problem.
Mhm.
If the churches were where they were supposed to be, we would not be having these issues. If we get it right in God's house, we get it right in our house, we'll
Mhm.
get it right in the courthouse, the state house, schoolhouse. But because you're being so passive, that's when people like a Cassidy feel like there's no other way to make a difference. They feel like they're not being heard and they feel like this is wrong. And we all know it's wrong.
Mhm.
Some people can't verbalize it. Some people may not have a constitutional or a scholarly or a biblical or theological way to address that and articulate it. But we all know, we all sense the evil and the wrong in this.
Yeah.
So someone like a Cassidy felt like they had to. I hate that for him. I hate the idea that he's going to be charged. I hate that it's going to give this undue attention to a group that is doing nothing but trying to steal, kill, and destroy our joy this season.
Mhm.
It was coming down what? Today or tomorrow?
Yeah.
So it was going to be on, and I'm not saying being passive, but let it go this year. We will correct it, I think, because of the hue and the cry, and that's going to be to everybody out there listening and watching. You need to
Mhm.
call your state legislators. You need to call your governor. You need to call your lieutenant governor, your attorney general. Call them
Yeah.
all politely. Be bright, be brief, be gone. Don't be laborious. Don't be threatening. That doesn't help. I'm going to vote you out. Doesn't make me want to help you, right? Or listen to you if I'm gone anyway.
Right.
So talk to these people and let them know your views. Doesn't have to be lengthy. The lengthier it is, the less likely it's going to get read.
Mhm.
Bullet points and why, if you can, or just you want it gone. But it would have been a measured approach. It would have been gone this year. And I think our legislators are going to, we've got some great legislators there. We do. And I think they are getting stronger.
Mhm.
And it's not just how big is the majority, it's how strong
Yeah.
are the people, right? And so I think they're getting much stronger and more able to articulate and move some of these things forward. At the same time, I will say this, there are some that are concerned that this whole thing is a stunt. We all know the trolls on Facebook. This is
Mhm.
a troll that came out physically. It was to gaslight, and some feel that even Cassidy's participation may have been a gaslight.
Mm.
Whatever was said to draw this person who I think is from Mississippi, is that what I read?
Yes, I think that's right.
So whatever was said that drew this individual, did he drive to Iowa just to do this? I mean, I don't know. I don't know this individual. Was that a gaslighting? I believe it was. And so that he did it, is that now going to
He
throw this
is
into the
he is running
well,
for Congress in Mississippi.
maybe that
So,
helped
it's
Mississippi. I
publicity.
don't know. It probably helps. It maybe it's a fundraising. Pay for my gas, now pay for my defense fund.
Right.
There's an organization that I will not name that's already popped up to pay for his defense fund, which part of me wants to be thrilled about that, and part of me wonders what is the reason behind that, and was this a planned thing like some were
Mm.
speculating?
Mhm.
So that we don't know. I would just say to everybody out there, you know, if you read and trust the Declaration of Independence, that second paragraph, that you are endowed by your creator, that your rights are inalienable, then they stand and they can't be taken by man. Whether the
Mhm.
elected officials at that moment get it right or wrong, our liberties, now Webster said, God gives a liberty to those who will guard it
Mm.
diligently. That's up to us. The Constitution is still strong, whether it's a state constitution or the national constitution. It's strong. It does not need to be revised, rewritten, or replaced. The content of the Constitution is worthy. It's the character of those in Congress and
Mhm.
those in our state legislators that is in question.
Mm.
And that will have to see.
Well, such important thoughts, such weighty thoughts, especially heading into Christmas. I think most of us were just hoping we could eat cookies and sing carols. And
It's like they're dangling something in front of us all the time.
yeah.
And I apologize, I'm bouncing in and out of Zoom here for video, but they are always dangling the sparkly object in front of us to distract us off the path, which is why
Mhm.
we say on our show that we're just trying to help people live God's word in today's world, no matter what the headlines say.
Mhm.
He expects us to live through it. He has directed us how to do it somewhere in his word. And I guess that's probably the best way to end, Rebecca. All of us probably need to be in the word more. One of my friends says, pray less, talk more.
Hmm.
All of us need to do that. And I say, weigh it out and pray it out before we ever act.
Talk less, pray more. That's a good one. I like that a lot. And I know that no matter what, coming back to, again, the reason for the season, particularly, that light has come into the world. The light of the world, the light of men has come into the world. It was good news then, and it's great news now. The darkness cannot comprehend the light, but the darkness cannot overcome the light. And that is still true today, no matter, what the enemy of our souls thinks. He's a defeated foe. So you see the thrashing, but it's not gonna make any difference, devil. You've already lost. We know that the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, whose government is on his shoulders and of his kingdom, there will be no end. He is the Prince of Peace, and he is the Lord of all. And I know you can give a hearty amen to that. Tamara, I love you, sister. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to be with us and to help shed some light and give us something to think about today. I'd love to talk with you again when time and grandkids allow.
Absolutely. And like I said, I am not an expert, but these are just the ramblings that are going on in this mind up here. So, weigh it out, pray it out, and decide for yourself on this. And you're absolutely right. You hit on something that I noted for people earlier as well. Wherever Jesus is, demons have to flee.
Mm-hmm.
And that day that baby
Yep.
Jesus went into the state house, praises rung out, praises went up, and you said it, Lord of Lords, and every knee will someday bow, every tongue will someday confess. And so it doesn't matter what they try down on earth, we win, and not we,
Mm-hmm.
but Jesus Christ, and the truth will win. And so that's what you have to not be discouraged. Do not let what takes place down here, don't let your eyes get caught up in that. Keep
Yeah.
your eyes focused. And now is a perfect time to do that. But don't just look at the little creche and the little manger. Take it to the cross and understand the whole plan, the whole gift, the whole victory is theirs for all of us if we'll take it.
Amen and amen again. Thank you, Tamara Scott. Check out, I'll put a link to your show as well, Tamara Scott Show, easy to find. And thank you again for faithfully speaking out on issues that matter with thoughtful conclusions and with that great background in history as well. We need more of those voices just like yours. So thanks again and Merry Christmas.
Thanks for all you do. Blessings to your family this season.